Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're going to be reviewing the album Our Time on Earth by the band Compass.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
Stay tuned because there are so many favorite bits from this one, you're not gonna even know where this one came to you. So without further ado, here are some of my favorite bits from this album. You thought there was gonna be a lot of favorite bits from this album? Well, no, there were only two, and those were even a stretch. But firstly, let me open up this review with a bit of context. So you see, this list is created, or was created, through basically asking prog heads one simple question. What are some of your favorite progressive rock albums that little know about? And well, the answers that I got for this question basically comprise about 90% of the list. Now, another 5% of this list is made up basically by me. I chose a few albums which I personally knew that I wanted to know, even if they're not considered to be that great. In that category, you have albums like Three of a Perfect Pair by King Crimson, and most notoriously Love Beach by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Now, another 4% are actually just miscellaneous changes that were made throughout the year. We have, of course, the 10 albums which you guys voted to be added on the list, and then we have several changes which I made along the way, seeing as that they were basically necessary. And if you did the calculations by now, you would have noticed that we still have 1% remaining. And that 1% is referring to the album we're reviewing today, called Our Time on Earth by the band Compass. Now, I suspect that a lot of you regular viewers of the series actually know how this album got on the list, but for future viewers of this channel, well, I'll explain it to you right now. So on the 20th of October 2022, I hosted what I called a very special live stream. And that livestream basically had one goal to it, and that goal was to take out one album from the list and substitute it with a completely new album. But of course, firstly, I needed to choose which album was to be removed from the list, and well, that was even the reason which I did it in the first place. You see, I encountered two of the Flower King albums on the list by that point, and I disliked them too quite highly, so when I saw that we had two more left to listen to, I knew that that could not remain, and we had to remove at least one. So I put the two of them up for vote with the chat, and the chat decided that they wanted to remove the album Islands and to keep Space Revolver. So now that Islands by the Flower Kings was gone, we of course had a void in our list, and that could not remain. So I hosted this sort of game show live stream where we basically had a random number being chosen every 10 minutes, and by the end of it we had a string of 5 numbers spelling out the number 61,507. Now, since I make these videos on a daily basis, I go on the prog archives so many times, and through the times I kind of figured out that each and every album has its own numeral ID, and if you change that ID, you get different types of albums. So for instance, if I change the number to 2, I will get Foxtrot by Genesis, and if I change the number to 100, I get oh, fuck you. So for the smarts of you in the audience, you might have noticed what I basically wanted to do. I wanted to take this seemingly random string of numbers and put it into the ID, and saying as basically every number from 1 until like 80,000 works, this one would work just finely. So I put it in, and we got a single by Wishbone Ash. That's not really what I wanted to see. I was expecting an album, to say the least. So I did not know what to do, but then someone in the chat recommended to me that I should probably just reverse the numbers, so now they created the number 70,516. So I typed that sucker into the search bar, and at last we got today's album, of course being Our Time on Earth by the band Compass, quite obscure and also quite new. Now yes, some part of me wished that we would have gotten one of those hidden gems from the 70s that no one has heard of, but it's gonna be the best album ever, and no, we did not get that. We got a pretty new album, a pretty obscure but also not that obscure album, and honestly an album which was really pretty garbage, considering the fact that I thought I was getting some garbage out of the list, but maybe thinking of it now, I should have probably kept Islands on. But before I elaborate on the shittiness of today's album, firstly let's talk about the band Compass, which I'm saying like that because it's written in all caps. So in the year of 2017, guitarist Steve Newman decided that he wanted to form his own band and to try to create music that he did not ever create before, and for that he gathered up 3 more musicians and together they formed a band called Compass. And the sound for this band was mainly inspired by bands like Dream Theater, Rush and Saga, and after 3 years they actually worked out and created their first debut album, and it's the album we're reviewing today called Our Time on Earth, released in the year of 2020. And just as an FYI, these guys have also released an album this year and it's called Theory of Tides. But let me tell you all the plain truth. Our Time on Earth is a pretty shitty album. It's such an uninspired album that it literally hurts, and that's really what I think. Oh, by the way, this one stinks. And if any of Compass members or any of their fans are watching this video, I'm sorry, but that's truly what I think of this album. It feels so uninspired, so non-creative, so unoriginal, to the fact where I don't see why anyone with all the variety of music that exists on Earth would decide to pick this one out and listen to it for what little enjoyment it probably has, because there's so many better music out there, and this really is not something that you should listen to, at least if you like music that is a bit slightly original. On the one hand, this album is progressive metal, on the other hand it is hard prog, on the other hand it is like neo prog, and on the other hand this is not even prog to begin with. And I will give it to the band, it seems like they are in the best of performance skills on here, they're doing their best, they're all in for it, but honestly, as I said, very much uninspired music, and for anyone who's a casual listener stumbling upon this album, I really don't see any reason why after listening to just a bit of it you shouldn't just pause the album and go on and listen to something else, anything else. Okay, but I will admit that I might be a bit too harsh on this one. I gave the songs on this album's ratings from like 5 to 6, maybe most of them being quite indifferent towards, or thinking that maybe they have a bit of good in them, and of course I had that one standout 7 which I gave to the song A Warning from History, which was not a good song but maybe the most creative you'd get out of this album. But overall, its consistency of being so uninspired, so uncreative has made it just a pretty sufferable album to go through, and again making me quite regret the fact that I took out the Flower Kings album in order to put this one instead. But yeah, while I definitely had a great time doing this game show live stream and substituting the albums and seeing this new one that I've never heard of join the ranks of the list, I think that next time if I ever do this again, I have to put on some fail switch in order to ensure that I don't get a pretty shitty album to replace yet a shitty album. But yeah, all in all, maybe they will get better. There's a lot of bands which start off pretty bad and then moved on to create some greater things, but as it stands right now, this album is not good. Well, this album cover, while it might not be my personal style, is one that I can appreciate its beauty. Yes, it is quite photoshopped, but I will have to say that it's also done in a pretty seamless manner. It doesn't look like something you'd expect to see in real life, but it's definitely supposed to be a representative of something, especially maybe global warming and everything that we cause the globe, and you can see that of course with the cover for their second album as well, so I guess that they have some recurring motives on here. I like the balance, I like how everything looks. It looks kind of slick and it's really interesting. The colors are also kind of balanced and I do love these shades of blue, so I think it's not a bad cover, just personally not one that I connect to that much. So I could probably give this album a rating of 5, but honestly it's just so consistently disinteresting and kind of bad really that I'd have to give it a rating of 4 out of 10. But that's about it guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for tomorrow because we're gonna be listening to Oxygène by Jean-Michel Jarre. Yes, I've been waiting for this one for so freaking long. I of course want to thank my lovely supporters over on Patreon, so thank you so much to Clay Warner, Roost of Kings, and Lindsay Hickox. You guys are just the best. And if any of you want to support me over on Patreon, you can find the link down in the description or in my about page. But that's about it guys. Have a wonderful day and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye guys.